Muli magandang araw. Ako po si Eli Saludar. Magandang araw sa iyo, Secretary Jing at Kado.
Magandang hapon po. Magandang hapon at magandang araw na rin sa ating mga mahal na mga kababayan. Ito po yung favorite ninyong program, Iparas kay Paras. At ito po, mga kasama ko, ito si Paring Ado.
Ado, paglinawan po ang maestro na nagpupugay ng isang magandang hapon sa inyong lahat.
At siyempre mga kababayan ay tuloy tayo sa issue pa rin dito yung mga singitan ng budget, yung mga budget insertions at matindi, may binabanggit itong si Senator Amy Marcos na naku baka ikagalit ito ng mga sundalo at mga retirado, Secretary Jing.
Yes, tingnan muna natin kung anong sinasabi ni Ginang Amy Marcos.
Amy, House budget insertions drawn from pensions. About 10 billion of the 60 billion in the last-minute insertions in the 2024 national budget by some members of the House of Representatives were drawn from funds intended for benefits and pensions of government workers and retired military personnel, Senator Amy Marcos said yesterday. In an interview over DCBB, Marcos said that as a result of the insertions, at least 16% of the items of expenses in the General Appropriations Act signed by President Marcos turned out to be different from the National Expenditure Program he submitted to Congress. Quote, "You'll see the difference if you look at what the President has submitted as compared with the final version. Almost 60% had been added. It's just like printing money, but it's actually slashing from the pension of workers, from retirement benefits of soldiers, some 10 billion, and large amounts removed from public works and foreign assisted projects," she said.
Okay. Well, ang pinag-usapan dito, mga kababayan, yung pagsingit, or ano ba yan? How do you say that in Tagalog? Yung sinisingit yung pondo, na wala doon sa
Yung sinumiteng NEP,
na sinumite na
National Expenditure,
hindi, yung final na kasi NEP
yung sinabit ng Malacanang yon.
sinabit ng
So,
Malacanang yun.
tinalakayan sa
Tinalakayan sa mga committee at they come
Plenaryo.
out with a final
Version.
House version
and Senate.
and Senate. So, kung wala yan doon, pagdating sa Bicam, mayroong dinagdag, yun ang tinatawag na insertion.
Insertion.
Okay. Ngayon, natatawa naman tayo kasi dahil parang naghugas kamay itong mga senador. Para kasing sinasabi nila na itong House lang ang nag-insert nito lahat. O pwede bang mag-insert ang House at maaprubahan kung walang kasamang mga senador? Parang biniblame mo ang House. Okay, kung if they're naughty, if they're bad people na nagsisingit, makakalusot ba yan kung hindi rin kayo bad people ng mga senador? Ha?
Pero, Secretary Jim, ang
ano natin?
binabanggit ni Senator Amy ay ginamit yung kanilang e-signature, parang nilansi sila at pinalusutan. Yun ang aligasyon, ha?
Di patunayan nila yan. So, ibig sabihin, lahat ng mga signatures ng mga senador, even the chairman, si Angara, yung vice chairman, at saka yung mga iba, mas matindi yan. Dapat yun ang i-raise silang issue na pinorge yung signature nila.
Yan, hindi yung sa mga e-signature.
Because e-signature, well, under the e-commerce law, yung e-signature is unaccepted. Pagkagaling sa email mo. That's a valid signature.
Accepted
Now,
yan.
they have to investigate this kung mayroon bang pareho na lang nito doon sa kay Janet Napoles na yung mga corrupt na mga senador, sinasabi nila na pinorge yung mga signatures nila. Na pinorge daw. Nung nahuli na sila kay Napoles, ay pinorge yung signature namin. So, the same thing that they are saying na Ibig sabihin, pinorge ba yung signature nila dito sa Bicam?
Ganun ang kanilang allegation.
Then why don't they raise that now? That is the biggest issue. If their signatures were forged to pass the Bicam, the signatures of this umaangal ng mga senador na wala silang kinalaman ay hindi valid yung Bicam na yan. O, hindi valid yung GAA na yan. O, pero kung sasabihin mo na ang House ang nagsingit nito, tapos hindi kayo kumikibo at nakalusot yan, there's something wrong with the Senate. Might as well abolish the Senate. Di ba?
Kasi yan ang role ng Senate, check and balance.
Yes. That's why they're claiming that this is a bicameral Congress. So, there's a check and balance. Although the Constitution only talks of the checks and balance between the three departments, the executive, the legislative, and the judiciary. But siningit ito ni Subiri na, there is a check and balance between the bicameral Congresses. So, wala itong kaibahan dito sa Akap. Ito, sinasabi din ito, anuhin natin itong sa Akap program. Sinasabi din nila insertion ito. Okay.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, Akap is just as foreign to us, technically, as Senator Bato, as it is provided
Yes,
in
Yusek
line
Di Mapuro,
item.
I understand that it's under the DSWD budget. If you recall, in the Senate, I handle the DSWD budget, but like the COMELEC's mysterious addition of 12 billion, this 26.7 billion in the budget of the DSWD is alien to me.
Yes.
Madam Chair, if this WD declares that this foreign to them, saan yung galing itong budget? Baliktad na pala ang budgeting process natin. Ang Kongreso na magde-decide kung anong project i-implement ninyo. Hindi pala kayo nagre-request sa Congress na project na pupunduhan, program na pupunduhan? Baliktad eh.
Madam Chair, it is not an exclusive project or program for Congress. It will be regular program, but it is technically foreign in the sense that it has no guidelines yet.
Yes, Yusek
So
Di
it does not
Mapuro, did you
exist as
request
a
for this
program.
project? Was it in the NAP? It was not.
No.
There we go. Yes. Do we allot sums of money, enormous sums of money such as this, almost 27 billion, for a project or a program that is undefined, unnamed, unfamiliar, with no guidelines whatsoever, with no target beneficiaries, and is just left open? Is this the usual practice in the DSWD?
Not necessarily a usual practice in
Not
the
necessarily.
DSWD.
So sometimes DSWD has these magical projects that no one has ever heard of before.
We don't create magical projects, Madam Chair. These are
But
part
when
of
is
the
it
GAA.
necessary? You said not necessarily. So there are times when it is necessary to invent projects?
There are times when there are necessary projects to
Yes, you have QRF and you have all kinds of emergency
Yes.
assistance. I'm very familiar. Why do you have to invent Akap?
Akap is not invented. I
But you
believe
just said that guidelines and the purposes had not been established.
yes, guidelines have to go through proper policy procedures. So
Pero
it's not
linagyan na ng
invented out
pera,
of the
walang
air.
nakakaintindi kung paano gagawin, kung kanino ibibigay. Walang kaplano-plano pero may pera na.
Madam Chair, there are programs that are provided by the GAA for NGAs to implement. But before we
Yes,
do
with all
implement,
due
we have
respect,
to...
Yusek, that is not the usual budget process we're familiar with. There's always a very well-defined project or program before a line item magically appears in the GAA. It's fought over, debated, and discussed very, very thoroughly in the subcommittees as well as the plenary. This wasn't.
Madam Chair, we are currently creating the guidelines, and we would be happy to share with.
Parang baliktad naman yata yung buhay natin. Ngayon mag-iimbento ng dahilan, magdi-design ng project, pupunteriya yung mga beneficiary. Pero in the meantime, linagyan muna ng bilyon-bilyon. Yan na ba talaga ang patakaran ng DSWD?
Madam Chair, for programs that are intended for the poor, vulnerable, and disadvantaged, we welcome, obviously, more programs, and we would be grateful to be able to implement these other programs.
I'm familiar with your mandate, but nothing in your mandate indicates that you should be inventing projects and that you are exempt from usual budgetary study and procedure. I'm sorry.
With due respect, tama si Undersecretary
Di
Maporo dyan. Wala pa namang proof na nilustay yung pera ng...
Hindi pa nagagastos.
Hindi pa naman nagagastos.
Kasi wala pang
They're already, nag-aalboroto na sila. Pero ito po tanong ko sa mga senador. Kay JB, Elsito, kaibigan natin yan. Kay Madam Aimee, kay Bato de la Rosa. They are all claiming na wala silang kaalam-alam dyan. Ang tanong muna natin, member ba kayo ng Bicam? Maybe your excuse if you're not a member of the Bicam. But if ikaw, Mr.
Pero si Senator Aimee, member.
Ikaw,
Tapos,
Mr. JB, ikaw, Mr. De La Rosa, at ikaw, Madam Aimee, nagsasalita kayo dyan at kini-question niyo yung Akap, paano nalusot yan? The Bicam speaks for itself. Bicameral. Dalawang body. Pwede bang palusutin ng mga senador yan kung questionable yung mga in-insert dyan?
Ang matindi dito, Secretary, si Senator Aimee, siyang nag-sponsor ng budget ng DSWD.
Yes.
Sabi
Alam mo, your work kasi does not end there as a sponsor.
So, dapat hanggang Bicam, binantayan.
Alam mo, yung Bicam kasi hindi lahat na senador member dyan. Talagang sila ay they're seeking they're seeking to become members. So ibig sabihin kung pinakiusapan niya yung Senate President na maging member ka dyan, expected ka na magtrabaho ka. At bulat-latin mo yung mga bawat dyan. That's really the work of the Bicameral Conference Committee.
Kasi kumbaga sana ipaglalaban mo yung version.
Paglalaban nyo yung version nyo. Now, kung magkaiba sa Congress, that is why there's a reconciliation. Kung hindi ka attentive, paano mo ngayon mag-question yung mga differences in the version? Tapos ngayon nag-aalboroto kayo na nasingitan kami. Ano palang trabaho nyo? Matulog lang sa pansitan. Porque siguro natanggap nyo na yung extra na allocation na sinasabi na mayroon daw tag 3 billion bawat senador. Di umano?
Laki na.
Nung nakuha na nila yon, sabi siguro ni Angara, mayroon tayong may allocation tayong 3 billion at kami na lang bahala dito. Huwag na kayong tumahimik na kayo. Kami na lang ni Ko at ni Kokoro Koko. Kami na lang ni Saldi Ko ang mag-usap dito. Ngayon nasingitan kayo, mag-aalboroto kayo at ituturo nyo ang House. So ibig sabihin, napakatalino ng mga House members. Napakatanga ninyo. Di ba? That's what's going to come out as the real picture. Kasi you're questioning paano kayo nasingitan. Nandoon ka ba? Umattend ka ba ng Bicam para mag-scrutinize mo yung mga this is not the first time in the history of Congress na may mga sinisingit dyan. You have to be watchful. You have to be, di ba, parang what can you say?
You have to be vigilant. Kasi nga, the bicameralism, the spirit of bicameralism is para yung mga parochial interest ng House of Representatives, ng mga congressmen, ay ma-erase doon sa level ng national interest na nire-represent naman
Yes.
ng mga senador. Eh kung kayo nagtutulog dyan, nasa na yung bicameralism? Eh di unicameralism ang umiral.
Parang ang sinasabi ni Yusek Di Maporo, I think she's the daughter of Bobby Di Maporo nung dating congressman din yata ito. Sinasabi niya, yung programa maganda para sa ipamimigay sa, ano ba yung title ng Akap?
Kapos.
Sa mga kapos. Oh. Wala pang guidelines eh. Oh. So, kung galing yan sa mga congressmen, walang kaalam-alam si Amy, walang kaalam-alam si JB Ejercito, walang kaalam-alam si Bato. Oh, sabihin ni Amy, akong nag-depend yan, wala yan. Now, but it comes out that the program is good. Probably, on second thought, na-insert yan ng mga congressmen. Now, kung ayaw nyo yung programa na yan, then you could have prevented that by having it scrapped from the final version after the Bicam has decided. Oh. Nakalusot yan. Alam mo kasi ito lahat nagkaroon ng para mga vested interest in the things that they are now pushing against PI o against sila kay gaya ni Aimee, gigil na gigil siya kay Romualdez kung ano-ano mga inaakusan niya kay Romualdez na sinisingit daw ni Romualdez dyan sa text message na ang Congress lang ang pwedeng maggamit ng pondo na yan. Pwede ba yan mangyari, paring Ado?
Naku.
Can that be? Ang laking iskandalo yan kung malalaman. Heads will roll in the lalo na ang tatapang nitong mga senador, ang iingay nito sila. Kung malaman nila na halimbawa na-release yung pondo na yan at talagang totoo yung inaakusan niya kay Romualdez, I don't think baka heaven will break. Ha?
Oh.
Di ba?
Ito, may dati Senador Lacson.
Ito, pakinggan natin si Senator Ping. Mayroon din siyang sinasabi tungkol dito sa insertion. Let us get some words from Ping Lacson.
Tama, wala naman sa rules at wala rin sa batas na hindi pwedeng baguhin yung mga disagreeing provisions ng both houses. Kasi di ba sa Bicam, Ted, ang kalakaran talaga dyan, kung yung general na panuntunan ang susundin natin, yung disagreeing provisions lamang ang i-reconcile. Pero talagang naging kalakaran na maski sa Bicam, maski wala sa provision ng wala sa House version at wala sa Senate version, naisisingit pa rin yung ibang version outside of the two versions ng both houses. So naging kalakaran na, parang in the course of time, inaccept na yon. Kasi ang siguro ang parang sinusunod dito, meron namang mutual trust yung dalawang houses. Na ang pag-uusapan lang natin kung ano yung hindi natin napagkasunduan sa mga version natin. So naging kalakaran na yan matagal nang ginagawa yan, Ted.
Opo, pero sir, kung sabi ho nga ninyo, dapat dito ay, kumbaga, to reconcile yung differences ng magkabilang bersyon. Pero hindi ho ba, sir, bagamat hindi nga ito illegal, pero the fact na dapat ho masusi ang pag-aaral sa bawat proposed budget ng departamento at dumadaan pangayam po sa Development Budget Coordinating Committee, bigla-bigla maglalagay ka ng malalaking pera doon po sa isang departamento na hindi naman humihingit, nagugulat sa appropriation. Hindi ho ba, bagamat ito'y hindi illegal, pero di ho ba't mali iyon?
Mali talaga, Ted. Hindi illegal kasi wala nagko-question sa Supreme Court. kung mayroong magko-question sa practice na yan at magro-rule yung Supreme Court, maglalabas ng ruling na sasabihin hindi po pwede yan, magiging illegal yon dahil wala namang controversy na formal na inihain, dinulog sa Korte Suprema. Kaya hindi natin masasabing illegal kasi walang interpretation.
Opo. Pero hindi man illegal, pero sa inyo hubang turing, mali yung gawin na ganon?
Mali. Maling-mali talaga, Ted. Unang-una, yung bicameral conference ng budget, nag-iisang panukalang batas ito na ang Bicam hindi open sa publiko. Napaka-exclusive. Talaga sinasaran yung pinto, pinapalabas yung mga unauthorized, quote-unquote, unauthorized persons at ang naiiwanan
Opo. Naputol po tayo, Senador. Naiiwanan lamang ay?
yun ang masama.
Medyo na...
Ang Ted, nung as early as 2009, nag-file ako ng bill na gawin transparent yung hindi lamang yung
Opo. Senator, nagchachapi lang po tayo. Senator, I hope you don't mind. Ayusin lang po. Opo. Hello, Sen. Opo. Hello, Sen. Napuputol lang po tayo, Senador.
So, putulin na rin natin. Kasi naintindihan na rin natin yung sinasabi. So, basically, ang sinasabi ni Ping Lacson, dapat ipag-reconcile, pero naging practice na maski wala doon sa original version ng either house na i-reconcile, pwedeng may alien na mga
langaw na dumapo.
na dumadapo. Ito na yung sinasabing insertion. It is still valid because it has been a practice. Although it is it's not morally upright, but it is legal at
Pero
the end of the day.
magiging illegal lang yan kung may lalapit sa Supreme Court.
Yes.
Yun talaga pinakamatindi.
At bakit naman may lalapit? Walang lalapit dyan kasi yung dalawang leaders ng House at saka nag-uusap yan. Paano ba natin patahimikin itong ating mga miyembro? Magkano bang idadagdag pa natin dyan? Di umano. Para hindi nakikibo. Tayo na lang ang mag-usap-usap. Pero, mayroon silang take home. Mayroon take home the bacon, so to speak.
Lumilitaw si Senator Jaime.
Dapat nga, i-reveal ninyo kung kano katotoo yung tag 3 billion bawat senador yun ang naririnig ko I may be wrong, but I'm not saying that it is true. I'm just asking. Baka mamaya, maging ka-Eric naman tayo niyan. Well, I just heard, but we're asking how true it is that because it has been the practice in the past na yung chairman at saka yung chairman nitong isa ng Senate at saka sila lang nag-uusap niyan. Now, so yung mga ibang walang kaalam-alam, magugulat ka na lang na may ina-insert na, 'di ba, parang Eli? So, pero kung hindi kayo nagpapakubinsi na you will look the other way, but you will concentrate on scrutinizing every provisions that is being reconciled, that is being added to the GAA, mahuhuli ninyo yan. Kung hindi kayo natulog sa pansitan, halimbawa, very active ka, gagaya ni Mrs. Amy Marcos, sabihin niya, hindi ko yan na-discuss doon sa being the sponsor. Tapos, attentive siya. Inatuklasan niya ngayon. Ano itong Akap na ito? Di mag-alboroto na siya doon pa lang sa Bicam. Di ba?
Hindi nga nila nalusot.
Hindi nga. Kung attentive nga siya.
Kung binantayan.
Kung binantayan na niya at nahuli niya, kasi you don't stop in the plenary. Being a member of the Bicam, you are obligated also to scrutinize the provisions.
Ang nangyari kasi dito, nagkaroon ng questionan after the fact.
Oo.
Wala na Kung gusto nyo questionin yan, eh di questionin nyo sa Supreme Court. Yun na lang yan. But it will flow.
Okay.
Yeah. So yun ang point natin. Sinasabi ni legal eh. Pero immoral. What may be immoral may still be legal.
Tama.
Oh, di ba? Now,
Dito, sa Chacha naman.
ha?
Pinag-usapan, legal ba o tama ba o mali?
Ang
Yung sa Chacha naman, yung pag-aproba sa economic Chacha.
ito.
Pinag-usapan din yan
Sinasabi ni ito. Pakinggan natin ito si gusto talaga makikialam to si Carpio eh.
Retired.
Si retired. The retired.
Tatakbo yata senador yan eh.
Nagpapakilala. Ha?
Pero ano ba?
Paparecruit.
Lumalabas mo ng survey kasi si Secretary Jing Paras ay lumabas sa survey. Ayan na.
Ayan na, ito. Kaya tawagan na yung survey.
Ito si retired Supreme
Panoorin
Court
natin,
Justice.
panoorin natin.
The Senate will vote separately, 3/4 vote to pass the resolution, at saka yung House will meet separately to pass the resolution by 3/4 vote. Pag merong conflict sa resolution na pinasa nila, they will meet parang bicameral conference, katulad ng pag nagle-legislate sila. And then, pag nag-agree na sila, babalik yung representatives nila sa Bicam, and the House and the Senate will separately approve again by 3/4 vote. Yun ang formula ni Father Bernas, sang-ayon ako dyan. And I think that is the way to resolve the deadlock. Kasi ngayon, ayaw mag-meet yung Senate with the House physically, kasi sabi nila, if we appear, sumipot kami dyan sa assembly na yan, i-outvote agad kami.
Tama.
Kasi yan ang position ng House. Sabi ng House, voting jointly. Kahit na all the senators will vote against, baliwala yun kasi it needs only 255 members of the House to approve the resolution. So, this is the solution to the deadlock. Kasi may deadlock ngayon eh.
Yes. Opo.
Ng House to have a constituent assembly, dapat both the Senate and the House will meet and vote as one, vote jointly. Sabi naman ng Senate, we can pass each other's resolution by 3/4 vote. We don't have to meet physically as a constituent assembly. So this will resolve that issue. I think we should go for this.
You're practically amending Mr. Carpio. Nakakaya ka. Nagsasuggest ka. Alam mo naman na that is not what the Constitution says. When you talk of constituent assembly, there is actual physical
Assembly.
You unify both houses. And in fact, the Supreme Court is very clear on this in the Ramon Gonzalez versus Comelec na there must be an actual physical convening. So how can you transform ito very okay, mag-meet daw yung Senado on their own. Mag-meet din yung House on their own. In what capacity are they gonna meet? There are two hats here Mr. Carpio kung mag-meet sila as a Senate, then they are meeting as a legislator. Hindi sila.
Legislative.
They only become something else, wearing new hat, when they are physically convening as one body.
And voting as one.
And voting as one to convene the
Assembly.
Constituent Assembly.
Pwede bang pwede ba Secretary Jing na katulad 'di ba pagbilangan ng boto sa presidente at vice presidente, parang nagkakaroon ng joint session tapos
Yes.
parang iisa sila
They transform themselves into a presidential electoral tribunal. Presidential
National canvassing.
presidential canvassing. Board of canvasser. So, pwede ba yan mag-canvass ang Senate separately, mag-canvass din ang House separately?
Hindi, sama sila.
Dapat isa lang yung Board of Canvasser. That is why mayroon talagang provision sa Constitution that necessarily both houses will meet as one. And this is one instance, itong Constituent Assembly, na talagang physical yan. Hindi yan pwedeng Senate will convene itself as a Constituent Assembly. House will paano ma-attain yung 3/4? 3/4 of both houses yan eh. Di ba?
Voting as one.
Pero pinakamainam talaga dyan, dapat magdesisyon ng Supreme Court.
Dapat nga, someone has to seek declaratory relief. Isa sa mga senator or
Tapos na yan.
will file probably a petition or petition for declaratory relief. Na itong sinasabi ni Berna, solusyon na lang yan.
Win-win solution na dapat.
Pero that will be stricken by the Supreme Court just the same eh. Gagawa ka ng solusyon, hindi ka naman sure na i-uphold ng Supreme Court yung solusyon mo eh. Di ba? You're introducing a possible solution in order to break the impasse. But that is not in accordance to or not in pursuance of the constitutional provision.
Pati kasi ang daming pending na kaso sa Supreme
Ganito
Court.
kasi yan eh. Alam mo, estudyante din tayo ng political law. Ang professor ko dyan, si Professor Vicente Mendoza, na napakagaling na professor. Naging Supreme Court Associate Justice din. When you convene, talagang physical yan. And once you convene, halimbawa, example ito mga kababayan, Senate will agree now, House will agree now. 300 plus ang House, 24 ang Senate. They envision to convene as a Constituent Assembly. Kung hindi nila na-attain yung 3/4, well, I move to convene a Constituent Assembly. Should we vote to convene? Kung hindi natin yung 3/4, ang bumoto lang 200 lang sa House. Sa Senate, ang bumoto 12 lang. Hindi, walang Constituent Assembly because hindi sila nag-agree. Ganun yan.
Magulo.
Pero ang sinasabi ni Carpio, mga kababayan, mag-convene daw ang Senate separately,
Kanya-kanya.
mag-convene ang House, kanya-kanya. Hindi yan eh. Anong kinonvene niya? He remains as a legislative body. He remains as a legislative body. To become a Constituent Assembly, there is a physical meeting and voting to convene. Dapat 3/4 votes of both houses. Yun ang convene.
Ako, with all due respects, palagay ko to si Carpio may dyslexia. Kasi very explicit sa constitutional provision yung two roles eh. The first role of Congress is legislating laws. Pag nag-legislate ka ng mga laws, that is under the Constitution. No? But when Congress acts as to amend the Constitution, they have to transform themselves into a constituent assembly voting jointly. Kasi isang body na lang sila.
And in fact, the Supreme Court says that they are no longer senators and congressmen. They are assemblymen under the new hat, which is the Constituent Assembly.
And
Clear yan eh. May
yung
jurisprudence na yan. Ewan ko, hindi yata na.
yung sinabi nga ni Eli kanina eh, when they it's another form that the Constitution provides when they canvass the votes. So that's another role. When they perform impeachment, Congress impeaches, the Senate acts as the court. That's another rule.
Yun, because that is
specified
specific, Pero yung national canvasser, both houses yun.
Joint process.
Kasi sa impeachment, di magkaiwalay talaga.
Mayroong mga provision sa Constitution that there is a specific physical gathering of both houses as one. And that cannot be changed. Maski mag-suggest pa si Bernas kung sino pang political would-be dyan na...
Si Renato Puno, may suggestion din.
No.
Ganun din, pero isubmit daw sa national referendum for the vote of the people.
Ay, parang mongrel
Opinion lang yun.
mongrel na PI yun.
Oo.
Mongrel.
Pag ganun, meron pang mag-ano lang. Koncom na. Koncon.
Alam mo kasi, ang bottom line talaga nito is selfishness, greed. Among these people na hindi na sila they are so untouchable, they are so, ano ba yun, matatag na sila kasi may 3 billion, di umano, may pang, so every election, kayang-kaya nilang manatili dyan. Tapos yung pangalan nila, pwede na yung asawa, pwede na yung ano, because they built names for themselves. Kaya kawawa yung mga iba na may kakayahan, marunong, matalino, matino, hindi ma-elect kasi these names, this group of people nananatili at parang ano na sila, untouchable, na hindi na pwede silang sumama dito to transform the Constitution to provide reforms. Ang kanilang iniisip, ano yan, baka delikado tayo dyan. Baka hindi na tayo ma-elect sa susunod kasi
Mawawalan tayo leverage dyan.
mga congressmen, baka mga bigla diyang mayroong na gawin tayong regional voting. Or baka mamaya may isa dyan na mag-suggest na unicameral body na ang Senado at saka Kongreso. Mapornada tayo. Huwag tayong pumayag dyan. Let's maintain our selfish motive to remain as senator and parati tayong mananalo dahil may pangalan tayo, may nakalap tayong pondo every year, panggastos natin sa eleksyon. Nobody will be taken out.
Okay.
Gano'n lang nangyayari.
Sige, abangan natin. Pero dito, good news muna tayo, Secretary. Dahil sa yung ating di ba, talagang imahe, napakasama ng airport natin dito sa Pilipinas. At least, ngayon, mukhang aayusin na Secretary Jing.
Actually, I was having that in my mind because I was so frustrated. Kanina, I came from Bacolod. I took a Cebu Pacific flight. Kasi naiwan ako sa PAL.
Di ba yan?
Naiwan ako.
Nare-resibo
Doble yung
pa.
bayad ko. Ito yung magkaiba yung Cebu Pacific, talagang tinitipid nilang tao, papel. Yung karton.
Medyo.
Yung PAL. Itong Cebu Pacific na naabutan ko, nakasakay ako. 30 minutos kami paikot-ikot, hindi nakaka-landing.
So, dahil sa traffic?
Dahil sa traffic. Kaya nga tama-tama na na-award na nito kay Ramon Ang ng San Miguel Corporation kasi talagang wala ng pag-asa yung ating international airport. Ito, basahin natin ito. Mga kababayan.
Tycoon Ramon Ang San Miguel wins 3 billion deal to upgrade Manila's congested airport. The Philippine government awarded the 170.6 billion pesos, $3 billion contract to upgrade and operate the aging Ninoy Aquino International Airport, the country's main international gateway, to a consortium led by billionaire Ramon Ang San Miguel. Transport Secretary Jaime Bautista announced Friday. The group, which includes South Korea's Incheon International Airport Corporation, offered the government an 82.2% share of NAIA's revenues, well above the 33.3% revenue share offered by Indian GMR Airports International, House of Investments, and Cavitex Holdings. The Manila International Airport Consortium, comprising Aboitiz Equity Ventures, billionaire Andrew Tan's Alliance Global Group, Ayala Corporation, Philinvest Development Corporation's JG Summit Holdings Incorporated, and Tobacco Tycoon Lucio Tan's Asia's Emerging Dragon Corporation offered a 25.9% share.
Dito hulog ng langit na kasi hindi matakaw, hindi swapang, at lalo na ito si Ramon Ang, napaka-generous itong tao na to. 82% ang ibibigay niya
Share.
na revenue.
More than double the second bid.
More than
Triple.
double itong
Triple.
grupo ni siguro nandyan si Manny Pangilinan or kuan kasi Capitex Sino bang may-ari ng Capitex?
Tama.
Nandyan yung
MPIC.
mga grupo. Hindi nahiya, 33%. Lalo lang walang hiya itong mga cronies na nakapaligid ngayon kay McCoy Jr. Pagkano? 22% lang ang ibibigay na share sa gobyerno. Napakaswapang. But there was an attempt, mga kababayan. There was an attempt na itatalbogin nila yung grupo ni San Miguel, ni Ramon Ang. They were contemplating on disqualifying Ramon Ang. In fact, from the beginning pa lang, hindi nila pinapayagan si Ramon Ang na mag-bid as a full bidder. Gusto nila party-party lang. Dahil ina-argue nitong DOTC, ito si Jimmy Bautista, na nandyan na daw si Ramon Ang sa San Miguel, sa Bulacan. Ang argument nila, baka daw monopoly. Paano mo maging monopoly yan? You can even argue na we will be much better with someone who is already experienced in airport, di ba?
Ang pinaka nagustuhan ko doon yung 82%.
Yun,
Oo, yun.
Na share ibibigay sa gobyerno.
Oo.
Taong bayan makikinabang doon.
Taong bayan.
So maganda yun.
So maganda yun. Mabuti na lang hindi pinakialaman ito. Ng mga buhaya dyan sa Malacanang. Kundi, ibibigay na naman doon sa mga cronies na mga, first class cronies na nagpapayaman ng gusto sa ating bansa ngayon.
Okay, so abangan natin yan at yung susunod na yung mangyayari dyan sa Ninoy Aquino. Dahil sa nakapunta ka na rin sa Incheon, di ba? Airport.
Yeah.
Yun ang katuwang dyan.
Incheon
ang
Airport
ganda
is
ng
one of the
airport.
top airports.
Paborito ko yan.
Ayun, sarap.
Incheon.
Sarap ang masyal-pasyal.
Korea.
Bago ako sumakay uli papuntang Maynila dyan, nakakaligo ako, nakakatulog ako.
Ayun.
Libre.
Dito nga sa programa, nakakatulog. Okay.
Kape.
Kape. Okay, huwag niyo kong kalimutan na mag-subscribe dito po sa Iparas kay Paras at siyempre sa aking YouTube channel at Eli Saludar.
Meron pa ba tayong iba?
YouTube channel po naman at Ado Paglinawan.
Okay, maraming salamat mga kababayan. Magandang hapon.
Okay.